The Handmaid's Tale Season 6, Episode 9 just came on. Oh my gosh, what a great episode. We're going to talk about it. Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the episode yet. Please feel free to come back later. This episode was amazing, and we said goodbye to a couple pivotal people in this episode. The episode starts off with the handmaids and Aunt Phoebe, who we later find out is Ava, walking through the streets to Taylor Swift's Look What You Made Me Do. You see them walking through the streets, running towards these vehicles, bombs start to go off. They all make it into these trucks, and the trucks take off. We cut to Serena, who is also running through the streets with her baby, and she comes across a handmaid that is like stabbing a wife to death on the street. So she is like shocked, and so she's hiding behind a tree, and she's trying to get to safety. She ends up at Commander Lawrence's house, and she asks him and Naomi to let her stay, and of course they bring her inside. While all the handmaids and Ava are in the car, we do learn, Aunt Phoebe's name is really Ava. Talking about how June and Moira are going to stay behind and help fight the fight. Janine has a very sweet moment where she's like, I'm going to stay and help you fight. I'm going to stay too. June and Janine are clearly going to stay for their daughters. Janine's clearly not going to leave without Charlotte, and June wants to save Hannah. Like, clearly the fight is not done. June turns to the other handmaids in the car and she goes, they don't get to decide who you are anymore. Go live your life. We then cut to Nick's house. Nick is asleep because he ate that cake. He wakes up because his wife is pleading with him to take her to the hospital. She is pregnant and something's going on. So he wakes up and takes his wife to the hospital. We cut back to the handmaids, and unfortunately they've been captured. A bunch of guards open up the truck door and they all take all the handmaids out. They line them all up against the wall and they start asking, who is June Osborne? Show yourself. June doesn't initially stand out, but then they grab one of the other handmaids, gun to her head, and then June's like, no, I'm here. But she tells Janine and Moira that she loves them, and she gets taken away. It's the next morning, and Serena's talking to Naomi about what has just happened. Serena's kind of learning about all the crazy things that happened the night before. Naomi is just a total bitch. I'm sorry. She's just terrible. She's talking about like how she hates the handmaids, how she they bless them, and like they're savages, all this stuff. And Serena's like, well, how would you feel if, that was your life? So Serena clearly cares about the handmaids, but, Naomi doesn't care about anyone but herself. But in any case, she says she called Commander Wharton, and so unfortunately, Commander Wharton shows up. So Serena has a conversation with Commander Wharton, and he basically is like, it pains me that, I made you that upset. And she's like, you broke our vows the moment you brought a handmaid into our house. And he basically is like, well, let's not have a handmaid. Let's just try to conceive children naturally. He tells her that he's taking all the women and children to a safer place in Gilead, and she basically refuses to go. She's like, I'm not going deeper into Gilead. No, thank you. He does tell her that June Osborne was behind all of this. He tells her about the cake and how June orchestrated all of this, and Serena is genuinely hurt. She's like, oh, I thought we were friends. I can't believe she did that. He says, yes, it's painful, when people take advantage of our kindness, but God's justice will be served. And so clearly Serena knows something terrible is going to happen to June. But she feels betrayed, which is like, come on, Serena. You see June has been locked in this circular cage. Commander Wharton shows up and he wants to have a conversation with her. They have this conversation and June basically is like, well, did your wife figure it out? Was she the one? And he was like, no, actually, she was shocked at your betrayal. June clearly has a grudge against Serena, rightly so. She's kind of surprised that Serena wasn't the one to be like, hey, it's June Osborne. He does let her out of the cage and he offers her a chair, and they have this conversation where he's like, Serena has been doing so much to help the handmaids. If you had only been more patient. She's like, there's no patience when it comes to SA. We can't have patience with that. He tells her her wicked sins are affront to God. He refers to Gilead as this godly place, and then June is like, absolutely not. Gilead is a horror show run by men who have been twisting his words. You don't want piety, you want power, and that's what all this is about. Before he leaves, he tells her he's giving him the chance for redemption, and she can thank Serena. June does kind of plead with him to stop what he's doing, but he takes her hand off his arm and he leaves. We see Commander Lawrence telling Naomi goodbye, telling her to take care of Charlotte. He gives her a book. He asks, have you packed all of her art supplies? And Naomi's like, yeah, well, I did. And then he's like, read this book. She wants to learn. It's our duty as her parents to teach her. So he's really trying to get across the idea that Naomi really needs to instill this love of learning in Charlotte, because I think Lawrence knows his time is coming up. He says goodbye to Charlotte, which is really sweet because I know Lawrence clearly loves Charlotte, but he has to say goodbye. Lawrence goes into the other room and approaches Serena, and they talk about June. Serena goes, I wouldn't be here without June. Noah wouldn't be alive without June. And Lawrence is like, yeah, can we pray for her? And so they pray for June because they know she's about to die. As Serena prays, we see June get led out in front of this huge crowd, and she's clearly about to be hung. Commander Wharton is there and he prays for the crowd. We see more people arrive. We see that Aunt Phoebe, or Ava, is there. She is going to be punished as well. Then see them deliver Aunt Lydia and the rest of the handmaids. All the handmaids are lined up on the stage. Warren starts talking about how Lydia has failed all of her girls. She's sinned against God. And he gives her the opportunity to kind of like pray and say some words. And at first, Aunt Lydia's like, she's praying for the girls for forgiveness. And she goes, I pray for forgiveness for the girls because they have been prisoners of godless men. And she like yells in his face. And then they take her to the side. And June is looking at Aunt Lydia like, way to go, Aunt Lydia. And Aunt Lydia kind of nods at her. So like, this is great for Aunt Lydia. Yay, go Aunt Lydia. June asks to say some words as well. And Commander Warden lets her do it. So she starts talking about forgiveness. She asks God to protect his humble servants because they're good people. She asks that their hopes and dreams meant something. And then she goes, because they have been oppressed by evil men, and fight for your freedom. Don't let the bastards get you down. Then they hang her. But we see that Luke and Rita are in the crowd and they start coming closer. And then explosions start happening all around them. Everyone starts fighting. Luke and Rita are awesome. And then all the handmaids start helping each other down. Rita runs and saves June from the rope. She's able to get June down from that rope. And June is lying there and looking around her and realizing wow, what's happening? We see American planes fly in, explosions everywhere. Everyone's fighting and it's awesome. And this is just a little appreciation post for Ava, our Aunt Phoebe. She's awesome. She's like one of my new favorite characters. I love her. Serena's at Commander Lawrence's house and she hears all the bombs going off. And then all of a sudden the door opens and a bunch of American soldiers come in and Mark tells her we're taking you to a safe place. You see Nick and his wife are in the hospital. His wife is fine. The baby's fine. But his wife starts telling him he needs to show his allegiance to her, to God, to their child, and to get rid of June. Because she says June is the reason that her little health complication happened because she ate that cake. She's really laying into Nick you need to show your allegiance now. Who are you fighting for? So June is fine. She's walking around. She's trying to find Mark and Rita directs her where he is. She finds Mark and we find out that Ava is a CIA agent and one of the best around. So that's another reason to love Aunt Phoebe or Ava. They basically let June know that Serena is in protective custody across the street and they're trying to get information out of her because they think Serena knows where all the commanders have gone because they don't know where all the commanders are. And they need to figure out where they are to kind of finish the job. So June says she's going to have a little conversation with Serena. June walks into this big church and she meets Serena there. And Serena is genuinely happy to see her, to see that she's alive. But June is initially extremely defensive. They have a little back and forth where June's all those men got what they deserved. And Serena disagrees. And, June tells her you're the reason why any of this had to happen in the first place. You were one of the people that caused all this mess. And they start to kind of have a similar argument that they had before, that they stop. And June asks her where are the commanders? Do you know where they are? And Serena is hesitant to tell her that information. Serena tells June I'm sure all the commanders are somewhere safe. That's all I can tell you. June's that's all you can tell me, or is that all you will tell me? Why won't you tell me the truth? June's I thought you were turning a new leaf. I thought you wanted freedom and justice. And Serena's I do want those things. I do. And June is kind of pushing back. She's it sounds all this is just your typical bullshit. What do you actually want? Look what's going on, Serena. And Serena's you want me to rat out my husband. You want me to put a target on his back. And June's look what your husband did to me. He strung me up in front of all these people. Is that the kind of man you want parenting your son? And June goes, we were blessed by God with all these beautiful children and it is our duty to protect them. And so why would you want them to grow up in this terrible environment with these terrible men? Is that the kind of environment you want your son to grow up in? June tells her God wants us to show them love, our children love. They cannot find love in this place. And Serena finally tells her, okay, the commanders are flying to DC at 7 p.m. tonight. And June really genuinely is so thankful. She smiles at Serena and says thank you. And Serena is crying because this was such a huge step for her. And June goes back to Mark and she's talking to him and Commander Lawrence later. And she refers to Serena as one of us. So this was a huge turning point for Serena. She did make the right decision. She finally made the right decision. So Commander Lawrence shows up and he's talking with Mark and June. Mark basically lets Lawrence know, hey, so we need you. We know that the commanders are flying to DC at 7 p.m. and this is our plan. They want Basically, Mark wants to put an explosive on this plane, and he needs a commander to go do it. And so he tells Commander Lawrence that he really needs him to go to that plane, put the package on the plane, and get off the plane, because he would be the most inconspicuous person. Commander Lawrence is scared, and he's like, I'm not like this hero, I'm just like an economist. Like, I don't want to get involved in that way. But June is like encouraging him for our best chance at getting this done. And so we see Commander Lawrence staring at the window, trying to figure out, like, is he gonna be brave or is he gonna refuse? And June offers to go with him. She's like, I'll be your getaway driver. I'm gonna go with you. And so Commander Lawrence agrees to go. So him and June make their way there. So Commander Lawrence and June arrive. June hides behind the car, lets him know, like, I'll be right here, go. And Commander Lawrence starts walking towards the plane to put the package on the plane, but unfortunately, the commanders show up, including Commander Wharton, and they approached Commander Lawrence. The other commanders are giving him a lot of grief, but Commander Wharton is like, you know what? Join us, Commander Lawrence. Join us on the plane. We'll kind of start over, and we need a unified front. Commander Lawrence has to make the decision. Now he knows for sure he is going to die if he stepped on that plane. And he makes the decision. He gets on the plane, and as June watches him with tears in her eyes, really, silently saying goodbye to him, he stands on the steps of the plane and puts his hand on his heart. And Commander Lawrence is sacrificing himself to finish the job, to finish this plan. This is a huge step for Commander Lawrence. I feel like he's been kind of helpful in some resistant things, but he's been kind of cowardly in other ways. But like, this is a huge, brave moment for him. And I'm so glad he made this decision. But then another car shows up and Nick is inside. Nick gets out and he starts walking on those steps to the plane, and June is watching him with like more tears in her eyes, like realizing like, oh no, Nick is gonna die. Part of me was worried that she was gonna say something or stop him from getting up there. But clearly, Nick has chosen his allegiance to Gilead. He got on that plane, and we see him talking to Commander Lawrence later on. Nick has a conversation with Commander Lawrence where he's like, oh, I see you decided to join the winners. What happened to all your big plans? And Lawrence says, a better man than me will have to enact them. Commander Lawrence says, you can't keep a good woman down. And Nick refers to June and says, she asked me to step away so many times. And Commander Lawrence says, well, you made the wrong decision. And the plane starts taking off. June walks out and watches the plane explode in the sky, and she knows that Commander Lawrence and Nick are dead. This is such a big moment for June. I think she's finally kind of saying goodbye to Nick. Like, that chapter is over. He's proven himself to be a traitor. He's chosen Gilead. Like, he had the choice and he went the wrong direction.